Joining me today is Derrick Pattenden from Nations Royalty. Derrick, thanks so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
So, Nations Royalty is a relatively new company. Why did you choose to get involved?
Yeah, so I guess real quick about my background. I was born in Ontario, and I'm a member of the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte First Nation. So I'm Indigenous, and I went to University of British Columbia, got my undergrad in mining engineering, and then I got my CFA or Chartered Financial Analyst designation. And then I worked 15 years in mining investment banking, mostly focused on mergers and acquisitions. So over that 15 years, I worked on over 30 completed M&A transactions with a total equity value over $20 billion. And I first learned about Nations Royalty on the IPO press release back in February of 2024. And when I saw that press release and the concept of the largest majority Indigenous controlled publicly traded company in Canada looking to make partnerships with Indigenous groups in the mining royalty space, it was just an idea that I was really excited about. And to me, it is going after the last untapped opportunity set in the mining royalty world. So I found it to be very exciting.
So you saw the company's news release and thought, hey, I can help here, and just reached out to the company?
Yeah, I reached out that day. I saw Rob McLeod was involved, and my friend I went to mining engineering school with, named Brian Waymark, he was also involved. So that kind of helped me figure out who to contact and set up a coffee. And, I ended up putting in my 2 weeks notice and started about 2 months ago.
Now, this is a new company with a completely new business model that's never really been done before. If I'm an investor, how can I get comfort with the idea that this is going to be a successful strategy?
Sure. Well, to start, yeah, everyone calls it new, which I partially agree with, but it really is like the mining royalty model itself is very old and well established. There's just a new twist here where we're partnering with Indigenous groups and Indigenous royalties. But the actual mining royalty model itself and the value proposition as to why royalties together are worth much more money than royalties in isolation, that's been borne out. And that's not just like theory, but it's been borne out in practice with some of the largest mining companies in Canada today are mining royalty companies. And as for the risks of cash flow, so our portfolio right now, we have 4 assets, and 2 of them, or half of the portfolio, are already in production and generating revenue for Nations Royalty. So that's the Bruce Jack gold mine, right? A very high-grade underground gold mine owned and operated by Newmont. It's already in production. And Ascot Resources' Premier and Red Mountain mine, that's just starting up. It poured first gold in April and targeting commercial production by the end of the year. So that one is also already operating. So we already have revenue at half the portfolio.
Now, when you think about doing deals, and that's your mandate, do you think about doing deals outside of the Golden Triangle?
Absolutely, yeah. So our assets at the moment are all inside the Golden Triangle because our founding nation, the Nisga'a Nation, that's where their territory is, and that was the first Indigenous group we partnered with. So that's why all of our assets are in the Golden Triangle. But we're looking well beyond that. There's Indigenous-owned royalties all across Canada. So we're looking in Ontario, Quebec, Nunavut, Alberta. We're looking wherever the Indigenous royalties are. And, if we're doing our job right, like 3 years from now, the company should look nothing like it does today.
So you guys are a bit of an ambassador for First Nations communities. Does it put you guys in a position where, let's just say that there's a bit of a struggle between a company and an Indigenous group in terms of negotiating a deal, where you guys can go in, help the 2 groups negotiate, and walk away with both a new royalty and a new investor?
Yeah, absolutely. And real quick, just touching on some of those big companies, Nations Royalty, despite being a small new mining royalty company, we've actually got some experience from the big companies in our management team and board of directors right now. Like, we have advisor Frank Justra, who is the founder of Silver Wheaton, which is now Wheaton Precious, which is the largest mining royalty company in the world today. And then we also have Alec Morrison on our board of directors, who is the founding CFO of Franco-Nevada, the second largest mining royalty company in the world. So we've got good experience and guidance from both of them on that in the company already. And then, yeah, this model is a bit different from the traditional space where they're looking to usually purchase a royalty or a stream on an asset that's in construction. What's different here is we can do that, but there's already Indigenous-owned mining royalties all across Canada that already exist. So in many ways, like, our opportunity for growth is already out there. The assets already exist. We just need to strike deals and partner with them. And as you touched on or mentioned, yes, we're very much looking to help Indigenous groups negotiate some of those impact and benefit agreements and the royalty terms with miners by bringing our experience in our nation's royalty team has experience negotiating those impacted benefit agreements, and we've got lots of experience with valuations of mining assets. So yeah, we would love to help them negotiate those deals and make sure that they're getting a fair transaction and a good piece of the pie.
What's the openness from other groups outside of the Nisga'a tribe?
I'd say it's quite open. A lot of them are excited at the prospect of the Indigenous peoples entering the capital markets of Canada. It's a new concept in that way, so it's it takes a lot of education explaining, not just in the capital markets, but also obviously a lot of these Indigenous groups, they have a million things to think about beyond their royalties and their lands. So we have to help explain the royalty model and why these assets are worth more money together, and how you can unlock the real value of your royalty by partnering with a mining royalty company. And the unique thing about our vehicle is being the only Indigenous controlled mining royalty company in the space. We're the only company that can offer them these Indigenous royalties, our Indigenous wealth. They're in Indigenous hands now, and they belong to stay in Indigenous hands. And so we give them a pathway to be able to maximize the value of that royalty, but keep it in Indigenous control the whole way through. But in general, yeah, they've been quite open, and there's been lots of discussions going on, and it's been fun.
Could you break down for our audience the difference between the royalties that you guys would own versus, say, the royalties that Franco-Nevada would own?
Yeah, I mean, so it depends. In some instances, there is a difference, but in other instances, there isn't. So, like, for example, on our 4 current royalties in the portfolio right now, one of them on Kitsault is an NSR. So that's a top-line royalty on a molybdenum project. So that's an NSR royalty, which is no different than what those bigger guys would traditionally go after. One part that is different is on 3 of the 4 assets, there is a royalty payment which is linked to mineral tax revenue. So that part is different. So that's not a top line NSR. It's a mineral tax revenue is basically, it's a bit complicated. It's in our presentation on our website, but it's a function of revenue minus OPEX. And then there's another portion that gets paid out that's revenue minus OPEX minus paid back capital. So it's, the revenue minus OPEX is kind of a middle line item, not a top line royalty, but more like middle. And, the revenue minus OPEX minus capital payback, that's not quite bottom line like an MPI because it's before tax. But so that is a difference with our royalties. But again, there are top line NSRs owned by Indigenous groups today in Canada. So that there are royalties that are just the same sort as what the other guys go after.
All right, Derrick, last question. If I'm an investor or I'm watching the company and considering investing, what am I looking for out of the company over the remainder of the year?
Sure. I mean, well, we just had a big catalyst out of Seabridge Gold, who we have a royalty on the KSM deposit, which is the largest permitted but undeveloped gold copper project in the world. And their CEO, Rudy Franck, I believe it was an interview with the Northern Miner, but he was saying that they're now in talks, after receiving that substantially start designation, they're now in talks with, I think, 6 different major mining companies who are obviously looking to partner and be a joint venture partner on that. So that would be a huge catalyst for our stock, as well as Seabridge Gold, obviously, if a big mining company partnered on that asset to help move it forward and build it. So other than that, it's really just, I guess, positive events at the assets we already own. But really, to me, the biggest catalyst or event would be the announcement of a new transaction on a new royalty, something new to get into the portfolio, and then seeing what that royalty looks like and how it stacks up against what else is out there.
Thanks so much for doing this, Derrick.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, please smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Also, let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks, everyone.